So, we're constantly hearing about how to optimize everything, aren't we? Our work, our health, our finances.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
But how often do we actually, step back and think about optimizing,
Yeah.
well, our lives? The one thing that really matters.
That's a great point. And today we're diving into a framework that actually suggests life is an optimization problem.
Interesting. Okay.
Exactly. We're taking a deep dive into the core ideas from Bill Perkins's book, Die with Zero. It's quite thought-provoking.
Guy with zero. Okay.
Yeah. Think of this conversation as like a focused exploration of how to maybe fundamentally rethink the link between your money and the life you actually want to live.
Okay, I like that. And our goal here is pretty straightforward, right? And we
Hmm.
want to pull out the most powerful insights from the book to help you, the listener, consciously design a more fulfilling life, starting, well, right now.
And the cornerstone of this whole philosophy, the absolute non-negotiable, is what Perkins calls rule number one.
Which is?
Maximize your positive life experiences.
Okay, maximize positive life experiences. Seems simple enough, but I bet there's more to it.
Well, yeah, it's not just a call for, like, impulsive hedonism. The book kicks off with a really powerful story
Oh, yeah.
about two lawyers, Aaron and John. Successful. But their lives just took this sharp turn when John got diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, wow. Right.
And suddenly, those long-term career plans, they just faded into the background.
Became secondary?
Totally. It became all about the immediate joy of shared moments. Simple things like visiting parks, just spending time with family, that became the priority.
That really hits home.
Yeah.
That stark reality, it just underscores this powerful idea, doesn't it? That true wealth isn't just about the bank balance.
No, it's about the moments, the experiences that actually define our lives.
Yeah, facing their own mortality, they kind of instinctively knew what mattered. Not some crazy bucket list, necessarily.
Exactly. Just those everyday connections suddenly had profound meaning.
Right.
And that's a really critical point the book makes. Maximizing your life isn't some one-size-fits-all formula. It's personal.
Very personal. What brings fulfillment varies so much. For some people, yeah, it's adventurous travel. For others, maybe it's the strategy of a poker game or the satisfaction of philanthropy.
Sure, lots of different things.
But the common thread is making that intentional choice, deliberately pursuing experiences that align with your happiness instead of just drifting, living on autopilot.
Okay, so let's dig into some of the more maybe counterintuitive ideas. I remember reading about this concept of the honorary billionaire. What's that about?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. It basically highlights how even people with unbelievable wealth, they often struggle to actually spend it all during their lifetime.
Really? Like even the super rich?
Yeah. Perkins points to examples like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. Their fortunes keep growing, even with massive philanthropy. There seems to be this sort of natural limit to how much one person can consume.
Oh, I never really thought about it that way. It actually reminds me of a story from the book about the author himself when he was young.
Oh, the Joe Farrell story. Yeah. He was saving this tiny amount from a pretty modest paycheck,
Yeah.
feeling all responsible.
Right, diligently saving.
And his boss, Joe Farrell, just kind of, well, he had a very direct reaction.
Oh, yeah, the "are you a finging idiot to save that money" line.
Yeah.
It sounds harsh, but it was a wake-up call.
Definitely.
Farrell's point was, Perkins was young, he had huge earning potential ahead of him.
Right. His best earning years were still coming.
Exactly. So why focus so much on pinching pennies with a small income now when that same energy, that same focus could go towards actually enjoying life's experiences in the present?
That makes sense. And this connects to another really influential idea, doesn't it? From that book, Your Money or Your Life, the whole money as life energy concept.
Oh, absolutely. That's a powerful connection. Your money or your life basically says the money you earn represents the hours of your finite life you traded for it.
Your actual time.
Your actual irreplaceable time. So every time you spend money, you're also spending your life energy, your time.
That definitely changes how you look at spending.
It forces you to ask, am I trading my precious time for things that genuinely make my life richer, or am I just, stuck on that treadmill buying stuff?
Right. Suddenly that impulse buy looks different when you think, okay, that's 3 hours of my life I just spent.
Precisely. It reframes everything.
So instead of just piling up money, the book really pushes this idea of investing in experiences. What does that mean in practice?
Well, rule number 2 is pretty clear. Start investing in experiences early.
Early.
And there's another great story about Jason Rufo, Perkins' roommate back in their early 20s. He decided to backpack across Europe.
Sounds like a classic young person's adventure.
It was, but financially, maybe not the most conventional decision. He actually ended up borrowing a significant chunk of money from a loan shark to do it.
Whoa, a loan shark.
Ugh,
Seriously.
really?
That sounds incredibly risky.
It was incredibly risky, financially speaking, but that's the whole point of the story, the contrast. While he took on this huge financial risk, Jason gained what he described as priceless life experiences. Travel, exploration, meeting people, creating these memories he absolutely wouldn't trade.
Even with the crazy interest rates, I imagine.
Even with the crazy interest rates, he had no regrets about the experience itself. And the book uses this to hammer home the idea that your life is the sum of your experiences.
So deliberate planning for those experiences is key.
Exactly. Jason's somewhat reckless trip, viewed through the die with zero lens, actually illustrates that core idea. Life is measured by the richness of experience, not just the bank balance.
And this brings us to the memory dividend, right? It's not just about the trip itself.
Precisely. The memory dividend. That's the ongoing value, the pleasure, the fulfillment we get from remembering past experiences.
Yeah.
Think about a really great vacation you took. The trip itself might have been a week, but the enjoyment stretches out, doesn't it?
Oh, totally. You talk about it, show photos, just think back on it.
Right. You share the stories, you reminisce with whoever you went with, you reflect on it privately for years. All those little moments of happiness, they add up, they compound.
So experiences are like investments that keep paying out joy.
Exactly. They yield immediate pleasure, sure, but also this continuous stream of happiness through memories. It's like an appreciating asset in your life's portfolio.
I like that, an appreciating asset. The book contrasts this return on experience with the standard return on equity we always hear about in finance. Can you give an example?
Yeah, the anecdote about Polly and the vacation property in Central America is perfect for this.
Okay.
Polly was looking at it mostly through a financial lens. You know, what's the potential ROI? Can I flip it later? That kind of thing.
Standard property investment thinking.
Right. But Perkins pushed him to think differently, to consider the return on experience. Meaning, how often would you actually use it? What kind of quality time would you have there? Would it create opportunities for real connection with family and friends?
Focusing on the life value, not just the money value.
Exactly. Perkins told him, if it leads to genuinely wonderful experiences, truly cherished memories, then it's the greatest deal on planet Earth, even if the financial return is just okay, or even modest.
That's a big shift in perspective. So the book really emphasizes acting now, but what about when you're young? You know, often broke. How do you invest in experiences then?
That's a really important question, and the book addresses it. The key point is, investing in experiences doesn't always mean spending a lot of money, especially when you're young.
Right.
Youth and good health are huge assets in themselves. You can get immense joy from things that are free or low cost.
Like what?
Like going to local concerts or festivals, exploring your own city or nearby nature spots, game nights with friends, just spending quality time connecting with people. The book argues most of us don't fully tap into these readily available sources of happiness.
That's true. We often overlook the simple things. This makes me think of that story about John Arnold, the energy trader.
Yeah.
Made billions, right?
Yeah, billions. But he seemed to always be postponing the good life, always chasing the next financial milestone.
He kept setting goals, like $15 million, and then saying he'd slow down.
Exactly. He'd hit the goal, even surpass it wildly, but the good life just kept receding into the distance. He ended up with over $4 billion, apparently not even really enjoying the work anymore.
Wow.
It just became a habit, you know? Working way past the point where the extra money actually added anything meaningful to his happiness or his ability to experience life. It's like diminishing returns on effort.
That's a sobering thought. And there's that other example, Elizabeth, who saved so diligently for retirement.
Yeah, the poignant one.
But then passed away, leaving a lot of it unspent. That feels like such wasted life energy.
It really is. She worked for decades, dutifully putting money away, ended up leaving behind, what was it, $130,000?
Yeah.
And when you calculate the hours she worked to earn that money she never got to enjoy, it's staggering. Over 2.5 years of 50-hour weeks.
Gone. Time she can't get back.
Exactly. And the book argues, even if you love your job, find deep satisfaction in it. The money you earn should still be used for valued experiences.
Not just accumulated for its own sake.
Right. It uses that video game analogy, earning an extra life. What's the point if you just let it sit there and expire?
Yeah, that's a powerful image. It makes you wonder how many of us might be on a similar track without realizing it, trading time for a future we might not fully get to enjoy.
It definitely gives you pause, makes you reconsider your own priorities, doesn't it?
It does. Now, this whole idea of dying with zero, I can see how that might raise eyebrows, especially if you have kids. You think about inheritance,
Understandably, yeah. And the book tackles that directly with rule number 5.
which is,
Give money to your children or to charity when it has the most impact.
when it has the most impact.
Yeah.
Not just if.
Precisely. It challenges the automatic assumption that dying with zero means being selfish towards your kids. It argues for a more thoughtful, strategic timing for giving.
So it's not about leaving them with nothing, necessarily. It's about when you give it.
Exactly. The book makes a really strong case for giving financial help to your kids while you're still alive.
When it can make a bigger difference.
A much bigger difference, potentially. Helping with education costs, a down payment on their first home, maybe giving them a cushion during a career change or starting a business, things that have a real impact earlier in their adult lives.
Yeah, I can see that. Perkins mentions asking friends about their kids' trust funds, right?
He does, and often finding there wasn't a clear, intentional plan for when or how that money would be distributed or used. It was just sort of there.
And isn't there a statistic about when people typically inherit money? It's later than you might think.
Yeah, surprisingly late. The peak probability for receiving an inheritance is around age 60.
60, wow.
Yeah, and the book tells Virginia Collins' story. She inherited a good chunk of money at 49 after struggling financially for years.
So helpful then. But
Yeah. But the implication is clear. That same money could have been absolutely life-changing if she'd received it maybe 10 or 20 years earlier.
Right. So die with zero isn't anti-giving. It's about smarter, more impactful giving.
Exactly. It's a thoughtful approach, the book calls it. Planning consciously and giving when it provides the maximum benefit, the most positive effect.
It also touches on why people leave money behind. Right. Sometimes it's intentional. Sometimes it's just left over.
Yeah, it suggests bequests are often a mix of intentional gifts and just the unintentional result of being overly cautious with savings throughout life.
And the value of that inheritance changes as kids get older.
Definitely. The book argues the impact, the perceived value, tends to go down as children age. The sweet spot, the period of peak potential benefit, is probably much younger, maybe between 26 and 35.
That makes sense. And it's not just the money, is it? It's also about time. Sharing experiences with them while they're growing up.
Oh, absolutely critical. The value of a parent just being there at the school play, the soccer game, even if the kid doesn't fully grasp it in the moment. Those things build lasting memories, strong bonds.
Yeah.
The book even mentions Chuck Feeney, the billionaire who famously gave away his fortune while alive, as an example. And it stresses this principle applies at any scale, mentioning organizations like Save the Children or Compassion International, where giving now has immediate impact.
Okay, let's move to rule number 6. This one feels very practical. Don't live your life on autopilot.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of brings us back to that boss, Joe Farrell, and his advice about young people maybe being a bit freer with their money.
It does connect back. Yeah, his view was quite different from, say, the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early.
Right. FIRE often emphasizes intense saving when you're young.
Very intense saving. And the book questions whether fixed saving rules, like the 50-30-20 budget, are really optimal across your entire life, especially when you're young and your income is likely to rise significantly.
Because your circumstances change.
Exactly. The balance between enjoying today and saving for tomorrow isn't static. It should shift.
How so?
Well, as your perceived time horizon gets shorter, as you get older, the natural tilt should be more towards prioritizing present enjoyment.
Because the future is less certain, and maybe your ability to enjoy things changes.
That's a huge part of it. The book is very direct about the reality of declining health. It impacts our ability to fully do and enjoy certain activities.
Yeah, that intense game of football you played at 20, probably not happening at 50, or at least not without consequences.
Right, or skiing or strenuous hiking. At some point, the risk of injury or just the physical strain starts to weigh more heavily. Sometimes the memory of doing those things becomes more pleasant than actually doing them now.
That's a slightly depressing thought,
Yeah.
but probably true for many things. And people often have a mental disconnect about aging, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. We might feel young mentally, but our bodies have their own timeline. It's important to be realistic about physical capabilities at different life stages.
And this ties back to the money aspect, too.
Definitely. The capacity to enjoy experiences varies with age. So money itself has different utility at different times.
Meaning $100,000 is worth more in experience terms at 50 than at 80?
Arguably, yes. In your 50s, you likely have the health, maybe more free time if kids are grown, to really use that money for travel, hobbies, whatever. In your 80s, physical limits might significantly restrict how you can use that same money for experiences.
The book does mention Stephen Stern, who got fit later in life. That's inspiring, but
But the underlying point remains. Investing in your health earlier yields much greater lifetime fulfillment. You get the benefits for longer.
makes sense. Small steps are still good, though.
Always. Any positive change helps. The book encourages everyone at all ages to spend more time and money on their health because good health enhances literally every other experience.
And it also mentions spending money to save time.
Yes. Spending money to buy back time from things you don't enjoy, like hiring a cleaner or using a delivery service, that frees up your life energy for things you actually value.
That leads into that what I rather
Rawr.
idea, right? And the personal interest rate.
Yeah, it's a mental framework. When deciding whether to spend now on an experience or save the money, you ask yourself, would I rather have this experience now or have potentially more money later?
And your answer changes over time.
It should. Your personal interest rate, your willingness to delay gratification should naturally go down as you age. The risk of not being able to enjoy the experience later increases. You become less willing to postpone joy.
The book mentions an app, too, the Die With Zero app, to help with this kind of planning.
Yeah, it's presented as a tool to get more concrete, to visualize how spending aligns with different life phases.
It seems the ultimate goal is matching up your resources, money, time, health, to maximize life enjoyment overall.
That's the core idea. Exactly. Your ability to enjoy life depends on all three: health, free time, and money. The app tries to help you optimize the interplay between them over your whole life.
And it makes a distinction between dying and, well, not being able to do things anymore.
A crucial distinction. The day you die and the day you can no longer actively participate in certain experiences you love are often two very different dates. You need to plan for maximizing experiences before that second date arrives for various activities.
And the time buckets idea helps with that.
Yeah, time buckets are just a simple way to visualize your life in chunks, say decades, 20s, 30s, 40s, and so on.
Okay.
Then you think about the key experiences you really want to have, and you try to place them in the most appropriate bucket.
And you often find
that the physically demanding stuff, or things best enjoyed with youthful energy or before major responsibilities kick in, tend to cluster in the earlier buckets.
makes sense. Perkins talks about his own 45th birthday party in St. Bart's, right?
Yeah.
As an example of this.
Yeah, that huge, extravagant party. It's a prime example of deliberately putting a significant experience into the right time bucket, even though it cost a lot.
Why was that the right time?
Well, he framed it as maximizing return on experience. The cost was high, sure, but the memories created, bringing together all those important people in his life that had immense value. He specifically mentioned wanting to do it while key people, like his mother, were still healthy enough to fully enjoy it. Postponing it might have meant they couldn't participate later.
So investing heavily at a peak experience at a peak time.
Exactly, which leads nicely into the idea of your net worth peak.
Okay, what's that? It sounds like just having the most money possible.
Not quite. It's the point in your life when your net worth is likely to be the highest it will ever be, and crucially, when you still have the health and time to really enjoy using it.
The combination. So after that point,
The focus should ideally shift from accumulation to decumulation, strategically spending down those assets to fund life experiences.
and when does this peak usually happen?
For most people, the book suggests it's typically somewhere between ages 45 and 60.
So continuing to aggressively save past 60 might actually be counterproductive.
It could lead to what the book calls suboptimal fulfillment. You end up dying with too much money, having missed out on experiences you could have had during your peak earning and health years.
Because you overshot the mark.
Yeah, potentially. The book also talks about a savings threshold, the basic amount you need to survive without earning more income. Many people apparently save way, way beyond that threshold out of fear or habit.
So we should think of the net worth peak less as a dollar amount and more as a date tied to our age.
That's a great way to put it. It's linked to your biological age and your capacity to enjoy things. Remember, experiences need more than just money.
Health and free time.
Critically important. Working endlessly just to pile up more savings can actually rob you of the health and time needed to enjoy those savings later.
Right. Okay, one last rule. Rule number 9. Take your biggest risks when you have little to lose. Sounds like advice for the young.
It definitely leans that way. Calculated boldness, especially early on.
The book uses Mark Cuban as an example.
Yeah, his early ventures. When you're young, the potential upside from taking a smart risk can be huge. And the downside, well, you have decades to recover if things go wrong.
Time is on your side.
Exactly. The cost of failure is relatively low. Perkins even shares his own story of getting fired early in his career.
Yeah, what happened?
It felt bad at the time, obviously, but ultimately it pushed him onto a different, and he felt better path professionally. Early setbacks often don't derail you long term.
So apply this to career choices, like pursuing acting in your 20s versus your 40s.
That's a classic example used. Or starting a business. The book encourages quantifying your fears, too. What's really the worst that could happen if you take that leap? Often, it's not as bad as you imagine.
He mentioned moving to Texas for a trading job, right? Quantifying the risk helped him make the move.
Exactly. Assessing the actual downside. And this boldness isn't just about huge career moves. It applies at any scale.
But the key is not underestimating the risk of not acting.
That's a crucial point. The risk of inaction. The life experiences you might miss out on by always playing it safe. That has a cost, too, even if it's harder to measure.
It's about finding the line between sensible caution and just being held back by fear.
Right. Thinking through the worst-case scenario often deflates the fear and shows the potential upside might be well worth the calculated risk.
Okay, so wrapping this all up.
Yeah.
The core message of Die with Zero isn't about being reckless.
Not at all. It's about a fundamental mind shift.
Moving away from just saving for some distant, uncertain future.
And towards consciously, intentionally living fully now, in the present, prioritizing experiences throughout your life.
It really prompts you to look at your own life, your own time buckets, as the book calls them.
Yeah, and ask yourself honestly, are you putting off experiences that are best suited for right now, for your current age and health?
It leaves you with a really powerful, maybe slightly uncomfortable question to ponder.
Which is?
Are you living a life that's truly yours, aligned with your deepest values? Or are you living the life others expect of you?
Oof. Yeah, that echoes Bronnie Ware's work on regrets of the dying, doesn't it?
It really does. Two of the biggest regrets she found were wishing they'd had the courage to live a life true to themselves, not the life others expected.
And wishing they hadn't worked so hard.
Exactly. Missing out on life.
So this deep dive, it's really just scratching the surface.
A starting point.
Definitely. Digging further into these ideas, maybe reading Die with Zero itself, could be incredibly valuable as you navigate your own unique optimization problem. The problem of living your best life.